Hello there, it's Keri from Keri'd from Fleece here. I'm just going to show you a video on how to do a couple of types of short rows, the regular wrap and turn and the German short row. On my walk around the brim hat, I actually use the German short row, and you can see it's almost invisible around here for the crown shaping. So this is just going to be a short video to show you how to do both of those methods, and you can choose which kind it is that you want to use. So I've cast on a few stitches here, just working in stockinette, and I'm going to just knit to my last 3 stitches on my needle. So obviously if you're learning how to do short rows, knitting is easy, or easy enough for you to be adventurous and try something as technique filled as short rows. I wouldn't really say they're difficult, they're just something that has to be learned, and when you're not used to doing them, they can be tricky. Okay, so I've knitted to the last 3. So here's my last 3, and the instructions will say to wrap and turn. And in order to do a regular wrap and turn short row, you would bring your yarn to the front, slip that stitch from the left needle to the right needle, bring your yarn to the back, slip that stitch back, see? And then you turn your work, obviously the turn. So you've wrapped your yarn around that stitch and you've turned your work. And then you just go in pattern to the end. So for the stockinette stitch, it's just the purl all the way to the end. Okay, and then your next instruction might say to work in pattern to 5 stitches from the end. So then you would just knit, or for the walk around the brim hat, the first part of the pattern will be your chart, and then you will knit until 5 stitches from the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more stitches. Okay, so we are 5 stitches from the end. You can see your last wrapped stitches here. I like to write my patterns to the end of all the stitches instead of going from the wrap, because sometimes it's hard to see which stitch is wrapped for the short rows. So we're going to do this one as a regular wrap and turn like we did the other one. So you bring your yarn to the front, slip the next stitch over to the right needle, wrap the yarn around that stitch and bring it to the back, and slip that stitch back to the left needle. Turn your work and work in pattern all the way to the end, which is a purl all the way to the end here. Okay, so now your pattern might say to knit to 7 stitches from the end. Okay, we're 7 stitches from the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can see the wraps. They make little gaps here, which is fine. Those will be closed up later. But for this one, we're going to do the German short row method. So for the German short row method, what I do, this is the one that I'm supposed to wrap. The instructions say to wrap and turn. You actually work that stitch, turn your work, slip the stitch from the left needle to the right needle, pull the yarn so that the 2 legs of the stitch come up over the needle, and then bring your yarn to the back to start purling to the end. We're going to purl all the way to the end. That was our wrap and turn for the German method. There is no actual wrap for the German method. It's more of a work the stitch and pull it over, because we just pulled the 2 legs over instead of wrapping and turning. Okay, we'll do that one more time. We're going to work to 9 stitches from the end. Okay, and for our German short row, it looks like 2 stitches, but it's actually just 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are our German wrap and turn, so 7, 8, and 9. And again, for the German short row, you work the stitch that's marked wrap and turn. Turn your work. Slip the stitch from the left needle to the right. And this is, this is where it would be if you were just purling. But we're going to pull tight so that those two legs come over the needle. And this working section over here will pull a little closer to your other needle. Bring your yarn through to the back and purl all the way to the end. And now we're going to go through and we're going to pick up those stitches like you would do in the pattern when it says to pick up all the wraps. So you just knit into the first wrapped stitch. In our case, it's going to be the German short row stitch, which we know is 9 stitches in. So if you don't know what it looks like and want to just count, you can count your stitches, and then you'll know when you're at that stitch. This is what the German short row stitch looks like when you get to it. These two legs are pulled over, so when you work into it, you're going to make sure you go through the stitch, and you're going to go through just like you normally knit, and knit that stitch. Okay, and then we have one in between these two, and I'll show you again for our German short row. This is what the stitch looks like. There's kind of like 2 legs here that you need to go under. Go under both and knit the stitch. That's how you pick up the German short row stitches. Now for the traditional short row stitches, you get to your stitch, you have your wrap here. So what you want to do for these is pick up this wrap, put it on your needle, and knit those two together. And again, we have the traditional wrap stitch here. You can see your little wrap around your stitch. You're going to pick that up, put it on your needle, and work into both of those stitches. Then you just knit to the end. We're going to purl 1 row, and then we will go back and we will look at what those stitches, those wrapped stitches look like after they're picked up and the row is worked after that. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row. Let's look and see what our stitches look like. We picked one up, I wrapped and turned on the 3rd one from the end, which was this one. You can see, there's really very little change here from the stockinette to the wrap and turn. And the same thing here at 5 stitches. Then at 7 stitches, we have our German short row, which you can tell even less. Just looks like it's straight stockinette stitch all the way down. And also at the 9 stitches here. But as you can see, it makes kind of a triangle trapezoid shape with your knitting. This side is wider because of the short rows, and that side is narrower. So that was the short row method. We have regular traditional short rows and German short rows for the Walk Around the Brim hat by Keri'd from Fleece. The yarn that I used here is Madeline Tosh Vintage in the Undergrowth colorway.